A mystery box is basically any J.J. Abrams plot point that people can get mad about online. Now you might think that seemed like a very natural cold open, but that's taken me 3 minutes and 25 seconds to work out, so the mystery box comes from this TED Talk delivered by a nervous little baby version of J.J. Abrams, which is supposedly about filmmaking, but mostly it seems to appeal to marketing guys. Basically, it comes from this idea that J.J. Abrams didn't know what to talk about at TED, and he had this box.
The premise behind the Mystery Magic Box was the following. $15 buys you $50 worth of magic, which is a savings.
But ever since he started making franchise installments, people have been absolutely livid about it. The mystery box is just a metaphor. He never actually defines it, but what people online get mad about is this idea of introducing plot points that you don't immediately resolve, which, if you think about it, is all plot points. And I guess our good friend J.J. Abrams' point was that making the audience think, oh, how's this going to resolve, allows them to invest in your story. It gives them motivation to invest in your characters, in your themes, in your world. The argument against it is that you get so caught up in creating these little questions and never resolving them that you forget to develop any of those things in the first place.
The investment of character, which is the stuff that really is inside the box. You know, it's why when people like do sequels or rip off movies, you know, of a genre, they're ripping off the wrong thing. Rip off the character, rip off the stuff that matters. I mean,
obviously everything I'm going to say will apply to Star Wars, but I'm not going to talk about Star Wars because I'm too scared, and also because I haven't seen the latest Star Wars for fear that it would break through my powerful psychic barriers and disappoint me. So in Star Wars Attack of the Clones, the mystery box is embarrassingly and clumsily introduced this idea of who ordered the clone army. And even though it sucks and was never resolved, it doesn't matter. It lets you care about that aspect of the world immediately, and importantly, makes you come back for Attack of the Clones 2. So movies are all about efficiency of storytelling. Within 2 hours, you want to build out as rich of a narrative as possible. And to do that, you use a lot of narrative shorthand. Like, we're introduced to Han Solo, he shoots a guy in the face, and we understand that he's like a cowboyish, lovable rogue. Now, in real life, whenever you're shooting a guy in the face, nobody assumes that about you. It's not fair. But movies operate on this heightened emotional logic, and they're based on showing us versions of things that we've seen before so that we can quickly grasp these concepts that they just don't have time to get into. And mystery boxes harness that emotional logic and audience assumption to create questions. Like, we assume that Han Solo will not just be left to die on Tatooine because we've seen movies before. We assume that Anakin and Padme getting together will cause problems because we've seen movies before. You assume that these plot threads are going to be closed off, so when they're not, you're left with this mystery. So as a lazy hack writer, mystery boxes are an incredible tool because you can set them up whenever just by forgetting to explain something, and you can solve them easily because of how they work. There's really only a couple of possible options. Either you do what general audiences would expect, or you do the exact opposite of that. There's just different nuances of those two positions. Hopefully that ruins movies for you. Answering a mystery box is a balancing act of story purpose and expectation. If you're going to give it an answer, it needs to be done in service of the story, but at the same time it needs to fulfill the audience's emotional expectations. It's not a twist, but it's a setup and a payoff. It's nice for it to be resolved, but it's not about the holy shit moment at the end. The mystery box is annoyingly the friends we made along the way.
Because ultimately, you know, the mystery box is all of us. So
let's look at a mystery box that was cocked up. I'm sure YouTube has got this one covered already, but in Mass Effect, which is a type of Star Wars, there's one of the most fumbled mystery boxes of all time. The first game introduces us to the Reapers, which are these massive, ancient, evil, robot space aliens who wipe out all life in the galaxy every 50,000 years. Mystery box, because we go, well, surely there must be some reason why. Mass Effect 2 handles that mystery box pretty well by ignoring it, and it just uses that as the backdrop to hold together a bunch of disparate character stories. Now, the central plot of the game sucks ass, but then Mass Effect 3 comes around, they go, oh fuck, I guess we gotta answer this, and so they came up with a cool twist. They came up with a cool Black Mirror twist where the evil alien space robots are destroying all life in the galaxy to stop the potential existence of evil alien space robots. They had to introduce a bunch of new information to make that work. It contradicts the rest of the series, it even contradicts other parts of the same game. Why? Well, there was a change in writers, and they had a very tight writing deadline because they had to basically have all of it locked before development had even started. And they still used the system that they had written Mass Effect 2 with, where they divided up all the different chunks of the story across different writers, even though Mass Effect 2's story was very much non-linear and Mass Effect 3's story is entirely linear. So you end up in this weird mess where every section of the story is disjointed from the last. But general problems with Mass Effect are outside the scope of this video. And it's not just Mass Effect or game development. The modern studio system loves mystery boxes because they allow for this modular storytelling by a rotating cast of writers and a Chekhov's gun rack. In the past, you'd have a single writer who understood the characters and the themes and the world and the overall story purpose and could write to those ideas. But as you have different writers swapping in and out, those ideas are obviously gonna change on a personal basis. And the system doesn't even allow them the time required to research, to draft, to get feedback, to have any level of intimacy with the subject material nearing what a single writer could have. It's insane to assume that a writer is going to be able to come up with the perfect storylines if they have to finish it before the previous episode is even out. I'm not going to talk about Star Wars. I'm not talking about Star Wars. So you have your mystery box, you have your audience expectations, and your story purpose, and it's a balancing act. You need a conclusion that should logically work, but because movies don't work on real world logic, it needs to fulfill an emotional purpose. It needs to develop the characters and the themes and the world, but it needs to be consistent with them. And as an audience, we want to see something new, but we also actually just want to see something familiar. So obviously, solving a mystery box is actually just an intuitive, emotion-based process that can't be solved objectively or mathematically. But let's ignore that and do it anyway. If you came up with a mystery box solution and you gave it a score on each of these categories out of 5, you total them up, that's how good your answer is. Now you take the difference between each, that's how controversial your answer is. And you subtract that, you get a good idea of overall how your mystery box solution is going to be received. So by my calculation, the Reapers in Mass Effect shouldn't have any big shock twist at all. Whether they're trying to save the galaxy from a greater threat or literally just do what they said they were trying to do and destroy it, it doesn't matter. Anything is a good backdrop, but that story lives and dies on how well it's used as an opportunity to explore the themes, the world, and the character, right? Like, Rey wants to find her parents. Mystery box. Now, it's probably for the best that her parents are nobody in particular. If they were a character that we knew, that would be ridiculous. But to have the bad guy stare down the camera's lens and go, your parents are nobody in particular, solves that mystery box for the audience, but not for her on a character level. She wasn't concerned with whether her parents were famous or not. She was just trying to find them. So there we go. Mystery boxes are fine. They're not even really an actual thing, and the answers don't matter. The studio system is the enemy of creativity, and I haven't made a good argument for mystery boxes, but you should go watch Babylon 5, which is another type of Star Wars. It's one of the first examples of mystery boxes being used as a storytelling tool, and it was mostly written by one guy, so they all paid off, and it kicks ass. I'm in the middle of fixing Attack of the Clones right now. Hopefully that will become video content sometime next week, so if you want to see that, the subscribe button is available. They say that you should remind people to subscribe at the end of the video, like people don't know what that button does, but I trust your intelligence. Or ironically, I don't trust your intelligence at all, and I've left that in. I still haven't come up with anything to say at the end of a video, and I have no plans to.